All right. So there is this Substack called Down Ballot, and they have released a handy dandy guide to every abortion ballot measure in this year's elections. Let me just make this a little bigger so I don't have to be leaning all the time. All right. So, measures to restore and protect the right to an abortion will go before voters in 10 different states this November, now that all questions concerning ballot access this year have been resolved. Reproductive rights activists hope to build on an unbroken string of successes at the ballot box in the 2 years since the Supreme Court's conservative majority overturned Roe v. Wade. Wait a minute, I thought there was one state that it was on the ballot, but... Oh wait, maybe it was that it was trying to get on the ballot and that didn't succeed. I don't know. I thought that there was at least one that didn't go the way we wanted it. I don't remember the exact details. All right, below we catalog each state where voters will have the chance to weigh in on amendments that would enshrine abortion rights into their state constitutions, including how each proposal would affect existing laws governing abortion access. Where available, we also take note of any recent polling. In each state, these amendments need a simple majority to pass, except in Colorado, where 55% support is required, and Florida, where 60% is necessary. Which Ohio tried to do that, but the residents said, no, 50% is enough. Thank you very much. All of these measures were placed on the ballot through citizen-sponsored ballot initiatives, except in Maryland and New York, where lawmakers voted to put them on the ballot. Okay, let's start with Arizona. They have Proposition 139, the Right to Abortion Initiative. Arizona activists qualified an abortion rights amendment in August following a battle over the state's near total abortion ban that made national headlines. In April, Arizona's conservative Supreme Court upheld a Civil War-era law barring the procedure in virtually all cases, but the state's Republican-run legislature voted to repeal the ban in May in face of massive pressure. Right, because it's not that they're actually for reproductive rights, they just want to get elected. But that Civil War law sounds a lot like Wisconsin's law. So, yay. All right. Despite that repeal, a separate GOP-backed law still bans abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancies, with no exceptions for rape or incest. Well, at least people know they're pregnant at that time, but still. Why? Why put any deadline to a medical procedure? Let the doctor and the woman decide for themselves if and when an abortion is necessary. I mean, seriously, stop making these hard, fast deadlines for when abortion can be happening. Doctors know what they're doing. But then again, these are the same people who seem to think that abortions, that women decide to have an abortion, that they go through 8 months of pregnancy and then they're like, I don't feel like being pregnant anymore. I'm going to go have an abortion. As if that's a thing. So if you think of it that way, I can understand why they're trying to put a hard, fast deadline on it, because they seem to think that without it, people are going to just run amok and have abortions whenever they damn well please, when that isn't actually happening. And seriously, no exceptions for rape or incest? Now, granted, it does make it more consistent because let's face it, the innocent baby doesn't become less innocent just because of how it was conceived. So at least there's consistency, but it's still shitty because once you put no exceptions into that, not just that there's no exceptions for rape or incest, there doesn't sound like there's any exceptions. So, yeah. That's just a shitty situation all around. By contrast, Proposition 139 would guarantee abortion access until fetal viability, the point at which a fetus is said to be capable of surviving outside the womb, which makes absolute sense. Because, okay, you're coming up with these arbitrary deadlines. 6 weeks, 15 weeks. Who the fuck cares? If the fetus can't survive outside the mother, what are you accomplishing? I mean, seriously, it's not like someone is having an abortion of a fetus that could live outside her body. So it's just basically screaming, yeah, we don't actually care about the woman, or the fetus. We're just using them as an excuse to be cruel. While there's some disagreement among medical professionals as to when exactly that threshold is reached, it's generally regarded as taking place at 22 to 24 weeks into pregnancy. Do you hear that, politicians? There isn't a general consensus. So, here's an idea. How about you let the doctor decide when viability is reached? Because the reason there is a range of 22 to 24 weeks is because just like any human matures, a fetus becomes viable. It's individual. Not some fetuses become viable at 22, some at 24. That's not for you to decide. The doctor who's following the progress of the fetus knows when viability is reached because they can see it. I just don't understand. Actually, this is all the more reason why politicians and basically anybody who isn't pregnant or an obstetrician should have any say at all in a woman's health care, because you know nothing of the situation. Alright. Abortion would be allowed after fetal viability to protect a patient's health. So, in other words, the standard practice. Obviously, the people who are pushing Proposition 139 are like, since we can't allow doctors to have a say because there are dum-dums who seem to think that they know better than medical professionals as to how medicine works and how healthcare works, so we're just going to bring up this proposition, which is basically the way doctors do things. Because if that's enshrined, doctors don't have to worry anymore at all as to if someone is looking over their shoulder to make sure they're practicing medicine properly, as opposed to, allowing for the doctor to know what the hell's going on. All right. But as they have in several other states, Republican lawmakers have tried to manipulate the outcome. Shocking. In the guide sent to all voters, they described the measure with the misleading phrase, unborn human being, instead of fetus, a move that was greenlit by the state Supreme Court. Nothing says we want to make this as emotionally charged as possible as saying unborn human being. Now, technically true. I'm not going to say it's not technically true. However, why? The only purpose of this is to make people see the fetus as viable from the very beginning. And, this idea that from conception. Except for the fact that anyone with half a brain, or who's actually gone through pregnancy, knows that that's not true. A fetus does not become viable till 22 to 24 weeks. So, I don't understand why that's like well into the third trimester. So, I just don't understand. Well, actually, wait a minute. 24 divided by... Yeah, it's into the third trimester. So, I just don't understand why this is so hard. I mean, this isn't like the proposition is saying, yes, we believe in abortion past birth. It's following standards of care. Nothing says we don't give a shit about standards of care. We just want to punish women for the sin of actually having sex and getting pregnant, regardless of their situation, because cruelty is the point. Okay. And the Supreme Court obviously is in full agreement with let's make this try to make this sound as unpopular as possible. So we can just say that the people didn't actually want abortion because we successfully manipulated it so people think it's something it's not. Similar language put forth by Republicans in Ohio last year, however, failed to dissuade voters from approving an abortion rights amendment by double digits. A recent poll from Fox News showed the Arizona measure passing in a 73-23 landslide. So, it's good to know that even in conservative states, because as I keep mentioning in my videos on abortion, this is not a partisan issue. This is not that just because this is a conservative state, like it is in Ohio, it's a conservative state, so it's destined to... abortion bans are destined to be a thing because the people are not going to vote for reproductive rights. And that's not true. Because people actually possess brains. And because it's so wide-ranging of people who've given birth or know someone who's given birth, they know more than these politicians, either because they actually don't know or because they just hate women, one or the other. And so they basically called them on their bullshit. And it looks like Arizona is on the brink of doing the same thing, which is great news. Because if you have to be underhanded to try to get the result you want, that is a great evidence that your position sucks. I mean, you have to manipulate people. You're probably not on the right side. Because if you were putting forth a position that was either popular or at least sounded valid, you wouldn't have to do that. You could let people make up their minds, but the fact that you don't want to do that, that you're trying to manipulate people, not a good thing. Not a good thing for your beliefs. In addition, 2 conservative justices who voted to uphold Arizona's near total abortion ban face retention elections in November. Nice. Fearful they might lose, Republicans have placed another measure on the ballot that would retroactively eliminate almost all judicial elections. Because nothing says we want to retain power than, now that we're in power, you can never get us out. Yeah, what the hell? Seriously? It's like they're not even hiding it. Actually, that's great for the Democrats that they're not hiding it, because they're making themselves so toxic, so horrible, that all they care about is power and dictating to others how to live their lives, whether they follow those dictates themselves or not. That, it's good to see that they're basically shooting themselves in the face. Well, actually, they're just stepping on a rake. Okay, let's move to Colorado and see what's happening there. The Right to Abortion and Health Insurance Coverage Initiative. Ooh, that's even more broad. Abortion remains legal in Colorado, one of a handful of states that do not restrict how late the procedure may take place. They make it sound like that's a bad thing, because again, it's up to the doctor when an abortion is needed. I mean, come on. However, reproductive rights supporters want stronger protections that could not be easily rolled back should Democrats ever find their control over state government threatened. Consequently, they're seeking to pass an amendment to guarantee abortion rights in the state's constitution, which qualified in May. Which, I mean, come on, even France did that. That's how scary this movement of we want to tell you what to do with your body is. Because even other countries see what's happened with the overturning of Roe v. Wade and said, yeah, we're just going to make sure that people know that this is good. They also have their sights on a 1984 amendment that prohibits the state from paying for abortions, which has limited access for poor women on Medicaid and for government employees who get their health insurance through a state-run program. And, why not? I mean, my taxes go to things that I don't use or I'm not interested in. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't be taxed that way. All right. In addition to securing abortion rights, the new amendment would also repeal that funding ban. Awesome. That's great to hear. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Colorado has emerged as a solidly blue state, but it's one of the few that requires a supermajority to pass constitutional amendments. The measure must therefore earn at least 55% of the vote to become law. I really don't know how that works. If this article doesn't state what the chances are that they will get a supermajority. So I'm hopeful that that will indeed happen. Because, you never know. Right now it's a solidly blue state, but it could easily be, the last I saw for polling averages, they were just leaning Democrat as opposed to safely Democrat. So anything's possible. So by all means, make sure that women do have the right to health care. Absolutely, positively should be a thing. All right. And for those who are crying that their tax dollars are going to pay for an abortion, yeah, I'm sure that their tax dollars going to things that some people might find, that they don't need or want, but understand that some people do. So, all right, let's move to Florida. Amendment 4, Right to Abortion Initiative. Oh, yes, and of course, the fact that abortion is health care. You cannot whine that your money is going towards health care. Because, you know what else it goes to? Viagra. And I do not see anybody questioning men being able to take Viagra. But they question abortion, they question birth control. No, that's not how this works. Organizers in Florida succeeded in placing an abortion rights amendment on the ballot in April. But on the same day, the state Supreme Court's conservative majority greenlit their measure. It also allowed a new 6-week abortion ban passed by Republicans to take effect. So yeah, that wasn't great. It's like, yeah, we'll put this on the measure, but you're going to suffer until then. So yeah. That law has limited exceptions, some of which require onerous documentation, but there are no exceptions for rape or incest after 15 weeks of pregnancy. If approved in November, Amendment 4 would guarantee abortion access until fetal viability and allow it later if medical professionals deem it necessary to protect a patient's health. So again, standards of care. The amendment must win 60% voter approval to become law, the highest threshold for citizen-initiated amendments in any state. Recent polling differs as to whether the amendment is just above or just below that mark. Additionally, 2 of the conservative justices who upheld the new abortion ban face retention elections in November. So, this is going to be interesting. The last I saw of the polling in Florida for the polling averages, it's leaning Trump. So, yeah, this is going to be iffy. Hopefully, Florida does actually thumb their nose at Ron DeSantis and approves this abortion law. Because, again, this is just standards of care. It's not a radical notion. It's basically saying, yeah, this is what doctors say it should be done when people should have an abortion. This is when viability is. This is, but sometimes shit happens and abortions are necessary later. So we're going to ensure that that's in the law because goobers seem to think that they know better than doctors. And the fact that that 2 of those conservative judges are up for retention, I hope that is being blasted everywhere, both in Arizona, and in Florida. Those conservative judges' names, so people know that these are the judges who are trying to make your lives miserable for reasons. All right, let's move to Maryland. So that is a referendum. Question 1, Right to Reproductive Freedom Amendment. Maryland, like Colorado, does not place limits on abortion based on how far along a pregnancy is. Nonetheless, Maryland's Democratic-run legislature passed a constitutional amendment last year that would enshrine a fundamental right to reproductive freedom and tightly limit how the state could restrict access to abortion. The measure now goes before voters for their approval. It would solidify existing protections and expand the ability of Marylanders to sue to overturn any overly burdensome restrictions on access. Which, again, I hope they get, because politicians or anybody outside of the woman, the doctor, possibly her family, depending on the family dynamics, should have a say in whether a woman gets an abortion. It shouldn't be anybody else. I should have absolutely no say in anybody's healthcare choices outside of my immediate family, and that's only if they want my opinion. And it certainly shouldn't be, I shouldn't have to ask the guy down the street about my healthcare just because the state says so. I mean, that's just stupid. Why would I want to ask about my health care to some stranger who knows nothing about my situation? All right, let's now move to Missouri and Amendment 3, Right to Reproductive Freedom Initiative. Activists in Missouri qualified an initiative in August that, if approved by voters, would amend Missouri's constitution and effectively overturn a law Republicans enacted that bans abortion except in cases of certain medical emergencies. Amendment 3 would guarantee abortion access until fetal viability as well as afterward when necessary to protect a patient's physical or mental health. Now, two things. Number one, in cases of certain medical emergencies, as we have seen in plenty of cases, because people cannot foresee each and every instance where a abortion is going to be needed. I mean, there are some obvious ones, but not everything is front of mind. So even if you have, say, a case of certain medical emergencies, what does that mean? And what constitutes a medical emergency? So, yeah, that is way too vague. And there are way too many potential medical emergencies that might not get covered. So, and I've noticed that they keep talking about the patient's physical. This one includes mental health, which I love, because that is another thing that forced birthers seem to forget. That we're not just, when we talk about a patient's health, we're not just talking about the physical health. Okay, they physically were able to give birth. That's wonderful. What is it going to do to them mentally to be forced to carry a fetus to term, especially if it's a result of rape? I mean, of course it's going to mess someone up. So yeah, so I do like that, but I've noticed so far none of these mention, well, they do mention fetal viability, so that I guess that does take care of, oops, it turns out the fetus is going to die at most a week after birth. So yeah, I guess that does take care of the, what about the fetus's health? But yeah. Fetal viability is a thing. Of course, and the fact that there are medical emergencies. So yeah. Forget that. Forget I mentioned anything. It covers it. Republicans unsuccessfully made multiple attempts to thwart the measure, including drafting a misleading summary that the state courts rejected as replete with politically partisan language. The GOP also sought to place its own amendments on the ballot that would have made it much harder to pass the abortion amendment by requiring it to win a supermajority support. Again, if you have to play all these games in order to get what you want, then probably what you want sucks. And maybe you should rethink why you're so insistent on it. Because what? You think women who are pro-choice love abortion? No, they don't. They don't want to have to go through that. But if they have to, they have to. All right. However, those efforts fell apart due to Republican infighting, meaning Amendment 3 needs only a simple majority to pass. A new poll from St. Louis University found the amendment ahead by a 52 to 34 margin. So again, good to see. Of course, I would have liked a greater margin, but still, it's leading, so that's good to know. And Republican infighting, what a shock. A bunch of wackaloons who can't get their shit together. Actually, it's for the best, because if they were to get their shit together, that would be scary. All right, let's go to Montana. Constitutional Initiative 128, Right to Abortion Initiative. Montana is the rare red state that serves as an abortion oasis amidst a desert of states that sharply restrict access, and reproductive rights advocates want to keep it that way. Their amendment, Constitutional Initiative 128, qualified for the ballot in August and would broadly guarantee abortion access until fetal viability. It would also protect it after that point if a healthcare provider deems it necessary to protect a patient's life or health. Again, great news, because that's the standard of care. And it is just mind-boggling that we have to put standard of care into the freaking Constitution because a bunch of crybabies can't handle that there might be a woman out there living her life and doing what's best for her that has nothing to do with you. The right to an abortion in Montana is already protected thanks to a 1999 state Supreme Court ruling that rested on the state's constitution's forceful guarantee of the right to privacy. While the court has continued to uphold that precedent, Republicans have long sought to undermine it, and they have a chance to further their aims this year. And this is another example of nonpartisanship when it comes to abortion. That this isn't a partisan issue, because Montana is a safe Republican state. So, and this even as far back as 99. They allowed for the reproductive rights of women. So, yeah. All right, that's because 2 liberal justices are not seeking re-election this fall, giving conservatives a strong chance to flip their seat and pave the way for an erosion of abortion rights. All the more reason to enact a constitutional amendment now. That makes sense. To guard against that scenario, I think that's an I, 128 would explicitly enshrine the rights to an abortion in state constitution. Because, this way, if conservatives were to take control of the bench, which, like I said, it is a safe Republican state, this will ensure that they can't fuck around with a woman's right to have a safe health care. All right, let's go to Nebraska. Right to Abortion Initiative and prohibit abortions after the first trimester amendment. All right. This has got to be separate amendments. Yep. Separate groups have qualified opposing ballot initiatives to amend Nebraska's constitution. One would restore and protect the right to an abortion, while the other would enshrine the state's existing 12-week ban and open the door to even tighter restrictions. And again, Nebraska is a safe Republican state. So, which is again shows you that this is a nonpartisan issue, because people want to be able to have an abortion if it's needed, and not have a bunch of politicians say that whether they are allowed to have it, because a lot of these Republicans are truly the small government minded people, and they know that shoving the government into a woman's uterus is not small government. All right. Right to an abortion initiative would allow abortions to take place until fetal viability and afterwards, if needed to protect a pregnant patient's life or health. Its opposite number, by contrast, would write the ban passed by Republican lawmakers last year into the state constitution, while still allowing them to approve even harsher curbs. Following the passage of that ban, Governor Jim Pillen previewed his intentions to go much further, declaring that we're going to end abortion. No, sweetheart, you're going to end legal abortion. Back alley abortions did not happen because abortion was legal. Back alley abortions happened because they were not legal. And so women died. Women were permanently infertile. There were all sorts of crap that happened simply because of botched abortions, because these were some people these were people, I'm not even sure they were doctors, who preyed on the vulnerable women who desperately needed an abortion but had nowhere to go. And that is the world that dipshits like him want to go back to, where just getting pregnant could turn into a death sentence. Strange as it might seem, it's possible that both amendments could pass. Ugh, what? A new poll from Split Ticket conducted by Survey USA finds both leading, with the anti-abortion measure, why that's written twice, I don't know, up 56 to 29, and the pro-abortion one, I hate that language, it's not pro-abortion, ahead by a smaller 45 to 35 margin. If the amendments both win a majority, the state constitution says that the one with the most yes votes shall thereby become law as to all conflicting provisions. So, as it stands now, the abortion amendment that stops abortions at the after the first trimester could become law in Nebraska because a bunch of dunderheads are voting yes on both measures. Because what the hell? Let's see. I just don't know. If the amendment both win a majority, the state constitution says that the one... read that already. To pass in Nebraska, a ballot measure needs both a simple majority of votes on the issue itself and votes from at least 35% of voters in the election overall. However, given the issue's salience, it's very unlikely that such a large proportion of voters would cast ballots for other races but undervote the abortion measures. Wait, what? Oh, it's saying that it'll happen. Okay. Yikes. All right. So let's go to Nevada. Question 6. Right to Abortion Initiative. Nevada activists successfully placed an abortion rights amendment on the ballot in June that would provide a fundamental right to abortion access until fetal viability and when necessary to protect a patient's life or health after that point. Abortion is already legal in Nevada until 24 weeks into pregnancy, but advocates want to amend the Constitution to further safeguard these protections in this perennial swing state. Unlike all other abortion measures on the ballot this year, Nevada's would have to pass twice to take effect. If a majority votes in favor this year, it would appear on the ballot again in 2026. It would then need to win majority support a second time to become law. A recent poll for Fox showed the amendment passing in a 75-21 landslide, which is great news. So, hopefully by 2026, when the amendment comes up again, we're no longer going to be faced with a bunch of wackaloons who seem to think they know better than doctors what a woman should do with her body. Because, healthcare. Nebraska is worrisome. I should hope that the people who are voting to ban abortion understand that that's what they're doing, that this isn't just, okay, it's going to end after the first trimester, and people think that sounds reasonable, which again, it's not, because that's not even fetal viability. So the first trimester is literally that, the first 3 months of pregnancy. So that's what, 12 weeks? So, yeah. I just don't see, you need at least 10 more weeks before you even begin to get to viability. So, let's continue. Let's see. So, next up is New York. Proposal 1, Equal Protection of Law Amendment. New York's Democratic-run state legislature passed what proponents dubbed the Equal Rights Amendment in both 2022 and 2023, sending it to voters this November. Under New York law, legislators must pass any constitutional amendments twice before they can appear on the ballot. Abortion is already legal through fetal viability, but proponents argue that their amendment would enshrine abortion rights in state constitution, safeguarding it in the future. And again, it is so sad that we have to do that. It's a freaking healthcare procedure. This should not be something that is even politically used. It shouldn't be something that's political at all. But then again, neither should civil rights, and apparently there are people who think that they can take away someone's civil rights, so I guess that tracks. However, state constitutional law expert Quinn Jurgen has noted that its abortion-related language is much less specific than related measures in other states this year. Instead, it more broadly bans discrimination based on numerous related categories such as sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression, pregnancy outcomes, and reproductive health care and autonomy. What is it with New York lately that they have to be so freaking convoluted? Seriously, just do what everybody else is doing. It's not that hard. Just, this is the standard of care. Put that in the amendment. It's okay. That's like, what the hell is happening? All right, South Dakota. Amendment G, Right to Abortion Initiative. Supporters qualified a constitutional amendment in May that would partially overturn a Republican-backed law that bans abortions for any reason other than to save a patient's life, which in previous videos I pointed out, what the hell does that mean? I mean, does this person have to go into sepsis before it's a life-saving abortion? When is it a life-saving abortion? However, some major national groups that support abortion rights, such as Planned Parenthood and the ACLU, are not backing the amendment because they view it as too restrictive. Huh? Okay. What does it say? If approved in November, the measure would guarantee abortion access only during the first trimester of pregnancy, which is roughly the first 12 to 13 weeks. During the second trimester, the state could regulate abortion only in ways that are reasonably related to the physical health of the pregnant woman. And since you guys are all obstetricians, that should be easy, right? It would allow the states to ban abortion during the third trimester, except in cases where a woman's physician deems it necessary, which is the only time that happens. What the hell are we doing here? To preserve the life and health of the pregnant woman. Again, that is what happens during a third trimester abortion. Just the fact that you're even saying, let's restrict abortion, at this point, I can see why Planned Parenthood and the ACLU have a problem with this ban, with this wording, because what the hell? I mean, ugh. Who the hell thought this was a good idea? I mean, I realize it's South Dakota, again, a safe state for Republicans, but so is Ohio, and guess what? They did it the right way, and abortion is now in the state constitution, so obviously not that hard. People want to retain their ability to get an abortion if necessary because they know they can't predict the future. They don't know when someone's going to need it. A mid-May poll for the University of South Dakota found the amendment ahead 53 to 35, but we haven't seen any more recent data. Okay, so that is all I have for that article. So if you're in any of those states and you want to, and you weren't planning on voting, maybe this will, get you to want to vote. If for no other reason, to make sure that abortion that people have access to abortion, because again, the guy down the street, I don't care if they're an obstetrician, if the guy down the street should not have any say in what I do for healthcare. If I'm in a position where I want advice and I trust this person, I can go to them and ask them their opinion about healthcare. But that's different than you cannot be allowed to do this because I said so. When you have no concept of what my situation is. So, hopefully these amendments, well, most of them, pass. The South Dakota one, I don't know what they have right now. So I don't know if this would be an improvement. So I can't answer the South Dakota one. But basically all the other ones, except the New York one, which sounds very convoluted. I don't even know what they're even asking on that one. I mean, what, you can't discriminate against a pregnant person. Great, that to me says we can't go back to the 60s where we fired women for the sin of getting pregnant while at work. I mean, I just don't know what to make of New York's. So I hope that most of these measures succeed because women should be allowed to have access to the health care they need and not look over their shoulder in in fear that Big Brother is going to tell them, oh no, you can't have an abortion because I don't care what your doctor says, I'm smarter than them. So yeah. I believe that is all I have for this article and this video. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.